Hello again. For this video I will be discussing Purejoy's relationships with the other ladies. So Purejoy is one of one of six. She's one of six concubines, and she has very different relationships with all of them. She kind of weaves in and out of being very much part of the strong sort of concubine group, and then also a little bit more of, which is due to her how she deals with being in the tomb, she kind of separates herself a little bit more. So I'll just like go through each character, and then sort of just explain the relationship that they have. So the obvious one is Morlight. Her and Morlight are very, they have a sort of a friendship, sisterly relationship at the beginning of the play, and then at the end of the play, they very much don't have that as much anymore. Well, that being said, Purejoy, I think, because where she's very much been persuaded by many treasures and just the general what she's witnessed of Morlight has done and is doing, I think she very much tries to undermine and go against Morlight at the end, and also wants to kind of sort of overpower her to a point. But Morlight is very much she's not trying to go against Purejoy, she's trying to reassure her that this isn't what Purejoy wants. When I say this, I'm referring to when she's wanting to sacrifice the convict. So therefore Morlight's just trying to persuade her out of it, and she's actually like, no, this isn't what you want to do. You know, she's Morlight's very much wants to take the responsibility on herself to murder the convict, but that is also shows the kind of the relationship that those two have, where Morlight does very much care for Purejoy, and she's trying to be almost shelter her a little bit from what's about to happen, because she doesn't want Purejoy to do that, because I think she just doesn't want her to do that and have to go through that even more so, and have that on her mind as well as everything else that's clearly on Purejoy's mind. And I think Morlight can see how much being in the tomb affected Purejoy a lot, because obviously it's not the same Purejoy that had entered the tomb with her. So, and it's, I think as well, where Morlight is obviously the leader of their group, or very much I think that's due to the fact that she must have been the closest to the Emperor, so therefore she kind of called all the shots in a way. And so where Purejoy obviously at the beginning was very much like optimistic and very knowledgeable, she's has all these, throughout the play Purejoy kind of spits out these little facts to Morlight. She's there, like when she describes how the astrologer can see everyone else's future but not their own, which again is a little reflection on what's sort of going on in the play. It's like a little foreshadow. It's kind of just like, you know, we don't know what's going to happen next, but I think the audience could very much see what was about to happen was the fact that they were going to kind of go a little bit sideways, and start killing and eating everyone. But obviously they were just sort of like waiting for Morlight to say what's next, basically. So yeah, that's their relationship. I think it's a close relationship, and also definitely tries to change in a sense that Purejoy tries to kind of overpower her, but or like a kind of bit more of a status, like upping the status a little bit. But I think Morlight is so knowledgeable and just doesn't want her sister to. So this is the thing, I keep referring to them as sisters because they are very like close in relationship. They have kind of grown up with each other, so it's sort of, they have like a very like sisterly bond, and I do think that that's very much shown in Moonlight and Purejoy's relationship. The second relationship that I think is also quite sisterly in a way is between Playful Kitten and Purejoy. Playful Kitten is a much younger character. Similarly with Young Friend, they're both the younger characters of the play. And within the rehearsal process, it wasn't really revealed as much in the script and the writing, but when we were actually doing it, you could see that there was like this closeness between Playful Kitten, Young Friend, and Purejoy, in a way that I think Purejoy was sort of just a bit of like a little shelter for them, for just kind of, you know, for making sure they were all right, and with other things as well, like when Playful Kitten doesn't want to eat the Emperor, because she just doesn't want to, it just feels wrong for her in every way, and Purejoy basically kind of helps persuade Playful Kitten in a way that is very manipulative, and it's interesting because it's sort of Purejoy. At first I couldn't really tell if Purejoy was just actually believed what Purejoy was saying herself, is because she was saying that, you know, when we eat the Emperor, like, we become the Emperor, we are our own emperors, therefore, you know, she's basically persuading the Playful Kitten is an emperor and it's all a game. So I think that line at the end is quite key, that she thinks it is a game, because obviously it's kind of that she doesn't want to deal with the reality of it, because, and I think that's, again, it's Purejoy telling herself that it's a game, and also Playful Kitten, but then obviously later on, Purejoy doesn't think it's a game anymore, and she kind of goes a bit off the walls a bit. But that being said, she very much helps Playful Kitten accept the position that they're in by trying to look at it through a different lens, through a different way, and help her sort of just carry on, and be the sort of in a sense a bigger sister figure, in a way. So similarly with Young Friend, they, again, like, and I think because where Young Friend is just the younger character, all of the other characters have a little bit more of kind of empathy for her, and similarly with Purejoy and Young Friend, when she comes in and she says a line, you know, I've wet myself, it's sort of just like a, you know, are you all right, like just double checking that they're good, and so they have like a close relationship, but it's very much like Purejoy is a bigger sister figure to those two, unlike Moonlight, where Purejoy kind of is kind of like almost just like a little bit helpless in a way. So then the second, third, fourth relationship is between Purejoy and Lovemouth, and that was really, really interesting and really good fun to unveil their two relationships, because during when we were reading it, we couldn't really see it as much, but as per when it's sort of, when you're doing it, when you're going through rehearsals and performing it, you could tell that they were two completely different characters. They were very similar, but their mindsets or ways of thinking or ways of dealing with being in the tomb were just on the opposite ends of each other. They were just so like, they couldn't be more different, whereas because Purejoy was very much like we're in the tomb, we're stuck, we're all gonna die, whereas Lovemouth was so optimistic, and finally it's because obviously with the optimism is not like it's kind of she's away with the fairies, because but I think it was, she had this realization that she suddenly had control of her life, and it was now her life and nobody else was going to tell her what to do or where to be or anything, and where she's suddenly got all this control over what she can do. She took that, she ran with it, because she was like, yes, finally, like I can do whatever I want. And she was obsessed with art, and she created all these sculptures and these paintings, and because she could, and she obviously that's what she wanted to do on the outside was, and she was now able to really do that within this new world that they had all created, that they're all part of. So I think Pure Joy, and in a way I think as well that I think Pure Joy was almost a little bit admired Lovemouth in a lot of ways, and so therefore became quite almost envious and jealous of how she was so optimistic. So naturally they clashed. Well, sorry about that. Naturally they clashed. And yeah, so it was a case of Pure Joy was just so like one way and Lovemouth was so the other. They clashed, but they didn't seem to like really fight or fall out, because that just shows, well, they obviously they fought, and they disagreed on the situation they were in, because Pure Joy was basically going like, we're all gonna die and this is absolutely mental, the fact that you guys are all here feeling fine about it. And then Lovemouth was just like, yes, because that's just how we're dealing with it. And finally, I think one of her lines was, it's my life, and that's quite powerful, because it's like it finally was her life in a way. And yeah, so obviously they clashed, they definitely had their differences, but you never saw throughout the play or towards the end of the play, they didn't seem to fall out, because I think they all agreed on one thing, they had to sort of stick together to a point. Obviously we'll touch on that later of the review, but I think with that being said, it's kind of, who would have after the play had finished, what happened, or what would have happened after. In its case of would they all have stuck together, or would they start actually killing each other off? We don't know, but considering the relationships that they had between each other, and Lovemouth's optimism, and in relationship or versus almost Pure Joy's realism, I think I don't know what would have happened between those two. But then saying that, it was really good fun to develop that relationship and see where it went. So the final relationship between Pure Joy is with Many Treasures. I touched on Many Treasures before in the previous video. She's very much like, she knows what she wants, she's in there, she's very much, she deals with it a very like logistically, in the fact that she's like, how are we gonna get food, how are we gonna survive, we need to think of a way to actually survive this situation that we're in. And obviously as well, she very much helps Pure Joy out of her little episode that she has. So therefore Pure Joy does admire Many Treasures a lot, and does see her as like a, that she's got her back, and vice versa. And I think, again, Pure Joy tries to almost repay Many Treasures for how she helped her, and by that it's kind of the whole like sacrificing scene, and I think she's sort of trying to say like, look, like you did all this for us, so therefore now it's my turn to murder the convicts. And yeah, so those are the relationships between the ladies, and thank you